Herd immunity. Herd immunity does not exist, or at least not due to vaccines. Herd immunity is just a term used by Big Pharma to pressure and propagandize us into using more vaccines. But now that RFK Jr. is nominated, we're going to be hearing a lot more about this. Even medical doctors who may pretend that they care about how food is grown in this country and all the chemicals and additives in food, like RFK Jr. cares about, they're still going to criticize his approach to health. Namely, his approach that suggests that injecting man-made chemical concoctions directly into the body, bypassing the normal entries of the immune system, might be a decision that people and parents should be allowed to make for themselves instead of it being mandated or pressured upon them by society. These things, it looks like these vaccines sometimes prevent symptoms of illness, but they do not prevent the causes of these illnesses. So he will take these things. Any illnesses that might become epidemic appear to not become epidemic. But the epidemic is the long-term effects caused by the vaccines. And I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the bad stuff. I'm not talking about all the chemicals in them that screw up the immune system and cause things like autism. It's not what I'm talking about here. The effects caused by the vaccines are that the vaccines prevent the virus from doing its job. You can look this up somewhere else, anywhere else. All viruses exist to perform a detoxification function in the body. When you prevent them from doing that, the toxins just continue to accumulate for years in our bodies until it becomes some sort of cancer or serious degenerative disease. So the term herd immunity, it was first apparently coined by a scientist in the USDA in 1894. Specifically, what they wrote down was he used the term to describe the healthy vitality and resistance to disease of well-fed herds of hogs. These herds of hogs were properly fed and cared for, seemed to be immune to a lot of diseases that other pigs were getting. So they called it herd immunity. That's got nothing to do with vaccines. That's got to do with proper care and husbandry and proper feeding of your herd, whether it's cattle or pigs or people. So the government scientific community back then started using the term herd immunity, and they also use it in the science books and medical books and things that doctors and that we learn at vet school and medical school. They also say herd immunity occurs after a natural outbreak to a disease, like measles. Measles is the common example. But that's not right. The reason that there are fewer measles infections for a while after a measles outbreak is because the measles virus did its job and served its intended purpose to detoxify the body and the population and prepare those young immune systems for the next phase of life. And those who didn't have any apparent measles infection, they either didn't need it because they didn't have the same toxins in their body, or they had a much milder infection that nobody noticed. But they always blame that or give credit to herd immunity. Enough people got the disease that the rest of the people didn't get it, or enough people got the vaccine that the rest of the people didn't get sick. It's got nothing to do with that. It's all about whether or not you needed to be detoxified by what that virus detoxifies for. So as I and plenty of others have said repeatedly in other videos, viruses and illnesses exist to detoxify our bodies with accumulated toxins and garbage from our food and environment. All viruses do that. Name any virus you want to, that's what's happening. When you deny nature the opportunity to do that, you end up sicker in the long run. So of course the obvious solution would be to avoid all those toxins in the first place, right? Then you wouldn't have to worry about whether or not you get a virus or a vaccine or any of those things. But unfortunately, the things that cause viruses, which are primarily forever chemicals like Teflon and DDT and glyphosate, and any new EMFs, electromagnetic radiation, microwaves, whatever, our cells are bathed in those things. That's Starlink, 5G cell phone technology, indoor Wi-Fi. It's impossible to avoid in our environment, those chemicals and those electromagnetic fields. We're inundated with it. We can't avoid it. You don't get to consent to having it done to you. You don't get to opt in. I didn't get to choose whether or not Elon Musk, as great as he is at some things, that putting Starlink satellites broadcasting down on me a bunch of EMF radiation. I don't want that happening to me. I didn't get a choice in that. The government gave him permission to do it. So you don't get to consent to opting into these toxic exposures, and there's no way to avoid it. You can't opt out of it either. But whether it's big telecom or big pharma, they have too much to lose if somebody like RFK Jr. convinces you to opt out of these man-made chemical injections. So he's going to be smeared, he's going to be discredited. Anything he says incorrectly is going to be just picked apart. We all make mistakes or say things wrong sometimes. Everything he does and says is going to be discredited. And hopefully not, but possibly, he might even be eliminated like his father and uncle were, because they too were a threat to some sort of big, powerful, money-hungry corporation or big business or big banking or corporate-backed government agencies. That's all for now. Thanks.